Hello, YouTube. So, this is my review of Game of Thrones Season 4. Now, before I begin, let me just lay some rules to this review. One, even though I do know I do read the books and I do know what happens in the book, I promise I'll try not to make too many comparisons to the book or like try to compare what happens in the scene that happens in the book and scene in the TV show. Mainly because I want to keep these two things separate, even though it's the same series, but gotta judge it on its own merits. I will make comparisons here from here and then, but I'll try to lay off the comparisons. Also, mainly because I feel like I don't want to get anything wrong. Like even though like I'm confident like on what happens in the series, I do want like I do get things wrong some here and there. So um anyways, on to the review. Now, Game of Thrones season 4. How to review this? Short review. Eh. And that's like I'm a little mixed. Like, okay, for one, I do like this season, but at the same time, I'm seeing the seeds of problems in the show. Because for one, the main problem that everyone's thinking of is, okay, what happens when we catch up to Dance with Dragons, or hell, even Feast for Crows? Because there's a lot of parts in this series, in the season, that was not actually from Storm of Swords, but actually in the next books, like Bran meeting was it the Three-Eyed Raven, or Daenerys chaining up her dragons, or what else was it? There's other stuff. I can't remember right now, but there's some stuff that's pulling in from the other books, and that's a problem because we're approaching the source materials end in like really quickly, much quicker than I thought actually, and with the sixth book still TBA, I'm a little worried that we're gonna get to the point where the TV show is gonna start doing its own thing. And the reason why I'm worried about that is because they can go one or two ways. Like they can either they already know the George R. R. Martin already told them the creators how the series is gonna end. I'm worried that we're going to get a lot of book spoilers from the TV show, which is like one of the few times I think this is the first time I'm ever gonna see that, but. I'm worried that we're gonna see a lot book spoilers from the TV show from now on, and also I'm worried that the book spoilers we're gonna get from the show are probably gonna end up different in the actual books when they come out. So it's like a double-edged sword. It's like on one hand you might get book spoilers, on the other hand it might not turn out the way that you wanted that it turned out in the TV show. So that's just something that's bothersome. But anyways. On to the actual review. Let's see. Oh, almost forgot to give my short review grade. Um, yeah, I liked it, but there are bits where I can see problems. Okay, let's go into my in-depth review now. Starting off, let's start off with the good because I have a lot to say about the bad. Not to say this season is bad or anything, I'm going to talk about why um, I have negative thoughts for future seasons. Like starting with the good though, number one good that I can think of is the cast of the season or Game of Thrones in general. The cast has always like done well. Like I feel like everyone's casted well for the parts. Like everyone does a good job. And this was the season that we got to say goodbye to a lot of characters. That's not saying much, it's Game of Thrones, but we got to say goodbye to a lot of characters that were actually like really memorable and will leave a big impact. I mean, yeah, I know the deaths that happen in the show, they happen in the book, and they have their reasons, but it's not so much we're losing the character, we're losing the actors because the actors that I'm thinking of, like Charles Dance, Jack Gleason, Rose Leslie, like I'm actually gonna miss their presence on the show because even though their characters were supposed to die, like it's they still brought like a sense of what's the word? They still brought their aura that they brought to the show. Like it is going to be missed. Especially Charles Dance as Tywin. Like I'm gonna miss that guy. But anyways, the cast did fine, like as usual. Like not much else to say there. The standout, like I feel like this has been talked to death, but the standout is Oberyn Martell. That topic has been done to death, but not gonna spend too much time on it. Like, little disappointed that they made the show made Oberyn a little too much into sex. Like, I feel like yeah, they got the whole like he's on a quest for vengeance thing down, but I just wish he was more angry. Does that make sense? Like, I feel like he was a little too focused on his sexual activities, and I'm gonna get more into that later on. But yeah, Oberyn was a standout. Like I feel like he was everyone's favorite character this season, and like as in the book, he was like everyone's like he was on everyone's like favorite character list. So I like how he was adapted, but how he was adapted still had problems to it, and I'll get that in a few seconds. But so yeah, Oberyn in the cast. What else do I have here? I have my notes here. The fight sequences were pretty good. That's that don't really have that much to say there. And they have a huge budget, so obviously the sequences are going to be good. Standout fight sequences. Everyone probably see this coming, but the battle at the wall, the battle of the Night's Watch. That was no Battle of Castle Black. What am I saying? Battle of Castle Black was pretty damn good. I'm a little disappointed that it was just like one night of battle. Like when I'm pretty sure in the books it was like days, but it was still pretty cool seeing that battle. Is it better than Battle of Blackwater? I feel like it was choreographed better and it looks better, but um, I do agree with the reviewer, and this goes for both like the book and the TV show, that we're gonna feel the effects of the Battle of the Blackwater. We felt more of the effects of the Battle of Blackwater than we did the Battle of Castle Black, because the thing is with the Battle of Blackwater, it was situated in King's Landing, where it's gonna affect like a whole bunch of storylines. But with the Battle of Castle Black, when it's so far in the north, it's like not a lot of people are gonna be really affected by this. Like, is Daenerys gonna be affected by it? Not really. Is Tyrion gonna be affected by it? Not really. Is Cersei or Arya or Sansa? Like, it feels like Jon Snow is having his own story in the north, and he is. But the fact that he's kind of in his own world, even though it's connected to the whole world, uh, you don't feel the effects of the Battle of Castle Black on the whole world as we did with the Battle of Blackwater. So that's the one major disappointment there. And I was actually like, it looks better than the Battle of Blackwater, but it's not as effective. So yeah, technically this does mean season four's episode 9 is the weakest of the episode 9s. Like, if I had to rank it, season 4 episode 9 would be the least effective, whereas obviously season 3 episode 9, with the Red Wedding, because the episode 9s are the big episode of the season, but this was definitely the weakest episode 9. Um, yeah. Besides the Battle of Castle Black, what else can I say? I really like the fight between Jon Snow and Carl Tanner. That was really well done. Um, the fight with the Brand's group against the skeletons was pretty cool, I guess. Just in general, not just the fight sequences, but like the sequences in general. Like, this show is one of the most, like, it has one of the biggest budgets. It's one of the most budgeted shows ever, and it shows. Like, it is one of the best looking shows in terms of visuals or in terms of like grandness, like I guess. Um, so fight sequences and visual, yeah, let's add visuals in this. And also another good note, the add-ins they did to the story. I'll talk about deviations later, but there were some add-ins that I liked. Like what were some? Oh, I like that they had Brienne and the Hound meet. They didn't meet in the books, but I like that they got to meet here. Like this time around, it was Brienne that killed the Hound. I thought that sent more of a message. What other sequences? What other added sequences did I like? Oh, okay, that kind of goes to show there. I feel like that was the only add-in that I think I truly liked. I'm pretty sure there was something else, but it's not coming to mind right now. Um, yeah, let's move on. Like, I guess there's other good notes I can say about this. Oh, there's a good add-in I forgot. Uh, what's her face? Yara's rescue of Theon. I actually really like that too. Um, because I think in the books I remember that Yara doesn't see Theon until like uh, well, Dance with Dragons. So I actually like that. I actually like that they did the rescue sequence here. I thought that was pretty cool. But anyways, there are other good notes that good points that I'm probably missing. Like besides visuals, just like it's still good to see the book on screen. Even though they are making changes, like it's always a treat to see these characters on screen and just seeing all these sets and stuff, seeing the story play out. Like even though if you read the book, you know where the story is going. Like it's still cool to see how the story goes to an extent. Now let me get into the bad. Oh, these are pretty good. Pretty like big points. But let me talk about the least controversial point here. This season was filled with weird subplots, or weird things they did to the story. The two that come to mind for me was the episode where Bran and Jon almost meet. I didn't understand why they had to do that. Like Bran gets captured by the mutineers, and Jon goes to attack the mutineers, and it's like, oh, Bran and Jon could meet, but then they don't. Like there was no reason for them to come that close. They just did. Like yeah, I guess that's more of a nitpick, but I don't really understand why they had to do that. And also another weird subplot, Missandei and Grey Worm, like they kind of had like a romantic thing going that which I don't think existed in the books. Like it wasn't bad, it was just kind of weird, and also how they treated the plot line. Like it wasn't like okay, I'd be fine if they did a love story between Missandei and Grey Worm, but they made it like almost entirely about Grey Worm being a eunuch, and that's problematic because that's a very what's the word, shallow way of viewing that relationship. They kind of went over like the whole like do you love him, that kind of thing, but I hate that a lot of it was based on oh how would do you plan on doing your like even Daenerys says like do when like to the slaves do they remove the pillar and the stones like uh I don't know. That's kind of childish when I think about it. Like, yeah, it is something to bring up. They could have explored this relationship differently. The now my next 2 points are pretty big. Let me start with the one I can talk. Let's start with this one. Deviations from story. Now I know when you're adapting something on screen, you have to make changes, but there's some changes here that were just they didn't frustrate me, but they did present a problem. Like Shay. Now, the Shay in the books was very, very selfish, like very money driven. Whereas in the TV show, they tried to make her more sympathetic, like especially like she was kind of like I guess a mother, sisterly figure to Sansa. And in the TV show, they still did the whole she betrays Tyrion thing, but it doesn't really make sense. Like she points out Sansa as a perpetrator, but they spent so much time building her up as like someone who cares about Sansa that it's like, why did she point out Sansa? Like even the actress, she didn't want to say that line because she didn't her character she didn't feel like her character had motivation to point out Sansa. Like maybe Tyrion, but not Sansa. And even like even the fact that like, the reason why she's betraying Tyrion, it's kind of petty. Like they're making it seem like she was being forced to do it, whereas in the books, I'm pretty sure it's more of just like a conscious betrayal. It's uh, I don't know. I feel like they tried to make Shay complex, but then fell back to the whole like when they had to go through with her fate, where she had to be strangled by Tyrion. They kind of reverted her back into the book Shay, but it was like it's a little too late. It's a little too late because we've established Shay as this totally different character, and then they had her go down the route as the original Shay, and there was a real disconnect between with this character. I don't know. So when Tyrion does kill her, it was just it kind of left me with just feeling like huh. And also how they did the whole Tyrion scene. They changed a lot. Like they didn't go through with Tyrion's falling out with Jaime. They didn't go through with Tyrion killing Shay in cold blood. Like they kind of made it look like it was self-defense, and they also totally excluded Tysha. And one may argue, well, the audience might not remember Tysha, but that's the thing. Like, for one, Tyrion does talk about Tysha in season one, so there's no excuse. And two, like they could have spent the time like with Jaime like talking about Tysha, like refreshing the audience's memory. Like audiences aren't stupid. Like we'll remember if you tell us. And also the fact that they didn't have the whole falling out between Tyrion and Jaime. I don't know that. I mean that's a huge part in the book. So I guess what the creators are saying, it didn't matter in the long run, or maybe they wanted to keep the one friendship that Tyrion had with his family. Speaking of the Lannisters, they also didn't have Jaime and Cersei split. All these changes, like these changes in general, I'm fine with changes, but as long as they make sense. Here, I'm worried that they don't make sense. In fact, they're kind of like bogging the story down. Like the change with Jaime and Cersei's relationship, I feel like that's detrimental because Jaime's character is supposed to be on this redemption arc, but here it's like they're like stalling his redemption. Like he's on the likable path, but he's still with Cersei. So I have no idea what's going on there, or why they chose to keep that. And also speaking of deviations, a problem with that is that there's some deviations I feel like that are book spoilers. Like there's the whole theory I heard about like Jojen pace, where like Bran is like eating like Jojen. Like I don't know, just read the books. I can't really explain it, but in the show Jojen dies, so that kinda is pointing to the Jojen pace theory. So um, that's where I'm worried that there's gonna be sequences that's gonna be book spoilers. So in the next book, maybe when it reveals that Jojen dies, like I won't be that surprised, but still, like that's something that the book readers should be worried about from now on. That this TV show is gonna start spoiling the book. Anyways, that was a problem, like the deviations from the story. But also, my major problem with the show is I know this is gonna make me sound weird, but the sexploitation and the rape, this is a huge problem. Like I know some people just like brush this away, but it is a problem. All right, I'm talking about, yeah, specifically the Breaker of Chains episode. Why did they have to do that? Like I don't, even in a narrative sense, like in a okay, fine, in a narrative sense, it makes even less sense. Like there's Jamie's supposed to be in a redemption arc, but turning him into a rapist, like it doesn't matter how much the audience like despises Cersei. It doesn't justify what Jamie does. You know, it's not even like implied. Like it's straight up like a rape scene. All right, she says no, and they still do it. Like how like his redemption arc is kind of broken at this point. How are we gonna like him now from now on? Like he's a rapist. Like he's a confirmed rapist. You know, like this isn't something that you can just like brush off, you know. Uh, and also, speaking of the sex scenes in this, like it's gotten to a point where it's getting distracting. Like, like I'm not saying, there's the whole argument where okay, we can have the sex as long as we balance it out with male nudity, you know, but that's not the point. Like it's starting to ruin the characters, if that makes sense. Like there's like going back to Oberyn, like I said, I'll go back to this. Oberyn's character was very like obsessed with getting like trying to get into an orgy. Like the first thing you see him in is like in a Lannister brothel. The problem there is that okay, yeah, he's bisexual and he's like sexually active and all that, but it it took away from his character that he's supposed to be like this revenge obsessed like brother trying to get back at the guy who killed his sister, and it's like like there's I hate the fact that you know they're using these like really exploitative like sex sequences as like story devices. Like okay, fine, you can use sex or nudity as like to push your story, but I guess this is a general criticism of Game of Thrones in general, but it's like, yeah, I said general twice, but like, it's getting distracting, okay? Like, there's no shock factor to the nudity anymore, okay? It's like we've seen it so much to the point where it's like it's it's turning into porn pretty much, okay? Um, yeah, that was just a problem for me. And also a problem that I'm noticing is that besides the rape, it's just I feel like the how the D&D is interpreting like like sex in this show is getting a little bothersome. Is bothersome in general. Like they turn the one bisexual character here into a guy who's obsessed with orgies. Like what kind of message is that sending? Yeah, I know, like some people are probably gonna say, "Well, why are you criticizing the sex in it? Like, don't you like nudity and stuff?" Like not when it's distracting from the story, you know. I don't know why I have maybe it's the rape scene why that I'm like making this a bigger deal than I did in the past, but it has gotten to a point where it's just like they need to cut down on you know the nudity, the sex, or if they're gonna keep it, make it more respectful. You know, it just it feels like the sex scenes and the nudity here. It feels like they're trying to they're trying to get in the immature like teen audience. It's like ooh boobs, ooh butts. It's like why did I do that? But it's 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 becoming less about the story now. You know, Anyways, I'm getting off. I'm spending too much time with with this exposition, but overall, Game of Thrones season 4. I mean, I liked it, but at the same time, like I said, there are seeds of like future failure. Like the changes, like the changes that don't that take from the story, like something I didn't mention before, but they remove cold hands, like which was actually one of a really interesting part of the book. But it just I feel like the story the show is headed in a bad direction, you know. Like it's still good. It's just I feel like there's going to be a point where the story where the show is starting to is going to start getting negative reviews, you know. And I guess to sum it up, Game of Thrones season 4 still pretty damn good, but it's starting to show signs of future failure, you know. But yeah, that's about it.